root, that square root of 24, that is understood to be a 2 right there. Okay? No big deal as far as the way that we solve these problems because we solve them very similarly. And really the only difference between what we're going to do in number 1 and what we're going to do with like number 4 or number 5, you know, when we do square roots, we circle pairs of things. Well, if it's a cube root, you circle every 3 of them. If it's a fourth root, you circle every 4 of them. So whatever kind of root it is, that's how many things you circle. Okay? Now, number 1, so number 1 should be pretty simple because we've been doing that. But if you look at number 2 and number 3, what's different? It's got X's in it. Okay, we're going to do it the same way. We're still going to circle pairs of things, but there's going to be X's in the answer. Okay, so let's look at number 1. I feel like you guys are pretty good at this. You divide by 2, divide by 2 again, divide by 2 again, and you get 3 2's and a 3. We know it's a square root, so we circle pairs of 2's. There's a 2 and a 3 left over. So our answer would be 2 square root of 6. No big deal, right? Okay, let's look at how number 2 is affected by this. So we're still going to start with the 50. Forget about the x to the 5th for a second. Divide by 2. Alright, we got a 25, so let's divide by 5. And we have a 5. So we have a 2, a 5, and a 5. Alright, now time for the x's. You see it says x to the 5th? Well, that's like there being 5 x's. Because it says x to the 5th, that's like there being 5 x's there. Alright, so we're still circling pairs of things because it's the square root. So I circle a pair of 5's, circle one pair of x's, and another pair of x's. Okay, remember, anything that's circled goes on the outside. Anything that's not circled goes on the inside. So the not circled part is the 2 and the x. Okay. The circled part, there's a 5 circled, and there's 2 x's circled. 2 pairs of x's. So we're going to make that x squared. And then our square root, and then what was left over, which is a 2 and an x. When you break down the 75, lots of you used 5, and then I think I saw 15. So 5 again, you get that. And then we have 6 x's. Okay, so if I circle things, we got 5's that we can circle, and we have 3 pairs of x's that we can circle. So anything circled goes on the outside, so that's 5x to the 3rd. Whatever's not circled goes on the inside. The only thing not circled is the 3. And so that's our answer. Any questions? Okay, so let's talk about what happens whenever it's a cube root, like number 4. If you put cube root of 48 in the calculator, it won't give it to you correctly, so that's why we've got to work it out. Okay? You're going to start off the same way as if it were a square root. Okay? Divide by 2, divide by 2 again, divide by 2 again, and again. Another thing that's kind of difficult on some of these problems is the numbers get bigger because cube roots and fourth roots are bigger numbers. Okay? Alright. So this time, instead of circling 2 things, I'm going to circle 3 things. Alright, so I have 3 2's here. So I'm going to circle all 3 of the 2's. And then 2 and 3 are separate. Okay, so what do you think the answer is? 2, because that's the only thing circled. Cube root, you leave your little 3 in the root. And whatever's left over, 2 times 3, 6. Okay, try number 5. So we ended up with 4 2's and a 3 if we looked at what we had written down in number 4. And because it's a fourth root, we're going to circle 4 things. Well, there's 4 2's there, and an extra 3. So that's going to be 2 4th root of 3. Okay, let's talk about it. So if you divide out 64, all right, yep, I didn't divide. I messed up one of the numbers. So actually, when you divide, you end up with 6 2's. Okay? And it's got a cube root. So I'm circling every 3 of them, right? So what number goes on the outside? 4, right? No numbers on the inside because there's no numbers left over. Now, the r squared is going to go on the inside because that's 2 r's and there's not 3 r's to circle. So I don't even have to write out the r's to figure that out. Now, the w to the 15. This is where I don't want you to divide that. I mean, to write it out unless you absolutely need to. If you divide the 15 and 3, it'll tell you how many pairs or triples there will be of it, and that'll tell you how many to take out. Okay? So if I divide 15 and 3, what do I get? 5. That means there's going to be 5 groups of 3 w's. So there's going to be a w to the 5th outside here, and there's not going to be any w's left over. Now, if that makes no sense, write out the 15 w's and circle every 3 of them, and you're going to have 5 groups. No big deal. Okay? Any questions? But the 6 2's, I knew that from number 6. Okay? And it's got a 4th root, so I'm circling every 4. So there's 4, there's 4, and there's 4. So what goes on the outside? 2 AB. And then what goes on the inside? 4, because 2 times 2 is 4. So 2x's on the outside, cube root, because it starts with a 3, and then what's on the inside? 2x squared. Okay, here we're going to circle every 4. So 2x is on the outside, and an x on the inside.